Hi, it's Melanie Warner here. I am live on my webcam. Sorry, I had to clean it. I just got back on a flight. I actually just flew across the country from New York City back to California late last night. And I just have to share with you guys the experience of being a producer for a television show and the process of how you go from having this concept and idea to what actually drives you to hit so many blocks and barriers and all the things that went wrong trying to get this show off the air. I mean, on the air, off the ground and on the air. And it literally is like trying to fly. And you're building the plane as you're flying it. But so many people have asked me, why did you do this? How did you keep doing this? How did you keep going? I'm not a big techie person, so I hope this is all like going out live like it should be, but I'm also sharing it live on Facebook and other places because I just want to share this message because I think it is so urgent. Um, I'm a mom. I don't know how many of you are parents out there, um, but I never planned to become a medical advocate for myself or my family. I really didn't plan on it. And my son passed away in my arms because of a medical error. The hospital broke 26 California protocols that day. There were laws that were supposed to protect us as a patient. They didn't follow them, they didn't honor them. I almost died too. I'm very grateful to be alive. Some of the doctors that were responsible for my son's death were also directly responsible for my life, for me living. So how did, this all come about? And do you guys realize I never even left a negative review on Yelp? I didn't sue the hospital. Number one, I had to drive by that hospital every day. Still do. And I had to make a decision that I was going to try to forgive them and move forward because I knew that if I sued them, it wasn't going to bring him back. I knew that if I went out and talked about it negatively, it wasn't going to bring him back. It wasn't going to change a broken system. It wasn't going to do the things I wanted it to do. And instead, I had to wait until the statutes of limitations resolved. And it took about a year because I couldn't even get the real records. First of all, this particular hospital, which I'm not going to publicly say who it was, actually doctored the records. We didn't even get the correct records back. There was a lot of shady things they did. And then there was a lot of amazing things they did. And I think when something like this happens, it brings out the best and the worst in everything and everybody. And so I'm grateful for the lessons that I learned, but I'm also incredibly frustrated with how broken this system is. And so when people ask, why did you produce a national television show about wellness? I'm not a wellness expert. Let me just start by saying that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm a mom. And I trust mom science over anything because I know my body and I know my kids and I know what's normal and what's not. I know the warning signs that were there that day when I was in that hospital. And everybody was telling me that I should be more concerned. And I'm trying to protect everybody else and say, no, they're experts. They know what they're doing. And my biggest mistake was trusting them with my life and my son's life. And it shouldn't be that way, you guys. It shouldn't be that way. And unfortunately, things in our country have gotten so out of whack. My heart goes out to doctors and nurses and people on the front line. This is absolutely not meant to be a dish on any of them, right? Think about this. When you see a police officer or you see somebody that goes into the military, they chose to get in front, or firemen, they chose to give their life to protect other people. Doctors and nurses, they didn't sign up for that, right? So now we've got all this post-pandemic things. And we have people whose lives are threatened because of airborne illnesses and things like that. There's a lot of fear driving all of us. And there's a lot of money in being sick. We all know that. But the system itself is so screwed up. And I don't know about you, but I'm just sick of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'm sick and tired of my kids being sick and tired. And I'm sick and tired of a broken system. I'm sick of doctors not giving us answers. I'm sick of paying out the wazoo for medical bills and for insurance, the best insurance you can buy that doesn't get you anywhere. The year that my son died, I spent $15,000 on the best insurance you can buy. What's the point if the system is broken and their hands are tied? I'm talking to gynecologists who are going to get certified in Botox because it's an elective thing and they can't make a living actually helping people give birth anymore because the system has their hands tied. I'm looking at a system where in the United States, we're number 2 in the world in infant mortality rate. Why or how is that possible? Meaning we're better off being out in a field giving birth than in a hospital right now. And I'm not trying to like upset people, but I'm trying to say this is what's happening, people. And the only way that it changes is if we vote with our dollar. We know the foods that we're eating have microplastics. We know some of the foods we're eating don't have good ingredients. When I was in New York City the other day, I had one of the most amazing meals I've had in a long time. And we went into this Italian restaurant and we literally asked, hey, is this a truly authentic Italian restaurant? Yes. And they bring their wheat from Italy. They don't use the enriched, overly processed wheat in this country because they want it to be authentic. If you've ever gone to Europe or even Canada and had the same exact foods that you would eat in America, do you notice they have different ingredients? Do you wonder why that is? It's because they don't tolerate it. They don't allow certain foods to be sold. They don't allow certain chemicals in their makeup, in their lotions. And we wonder why we're sick. And everything that we put in our body and on our body is making us sick. It's environmentally happening. It's coming through consumption. And then on top of that, we're being told all we have to do is cut and paste, right? Go take a pill and get some surgery and you'll be fine. And then we're not. And so, literally as I'm leaving this message, I'm getting another voicemail from a nurse because it's so frustrating to have a kid that's sick and you don't have answers. And as a parent, it's the most frustrating thing in the entire world. Because you're trying to listen to them and you're trying to trust them. And you've been let down so many times. And that trust has been eroded. And it's not even an intentional thing. It's so systemic that they don't even know how to fix it. They don't know how to stop being part of the problem. And this is why I created the show. This is why I went out and fought to produce this show, to get the funding, to cover the cost ourselves, to bring in sponsors and do everything that we would have done on a regular network. But the conversations that we had with other networks went very differently. You have to edit this out. You can't say this on national TV. You can't say that. You can't talk about this. You can't talk about that. If somebody was healed because of a faith in the belief in God or in something outside of medicine, they didn't want us to talk about that. And so I have to really give a lot of props to our public television partners because they evaluated our show and they allowed us to keep in so many things. And there are things in this show that are very sensitive. There are people that are talking openly about their mental health struggles, their suicide attempts, and why and how, as a society, we have this huge epidemic of mental health. And it's happening with young people, not just older people. It's not just kids ages, 8 to 12. It's men in their 50s as well. It's like it's just like it's become a way of coping. As people are seeing this as an alternative to not taking medication and making a decision that's a permanent decision for a temporary feeling or a temporary problem. And so much of this education is so sacred, and finding the people that we can trust that really have this voice. And for me, my whole life, I have listened to mentors. I have always believed the mantra of listen to the people who have what you want. When I meet moms who have kids that are autistic, when I meet women that have hormonal issues and they found a way to balance them when medicine failed them, when I meet parents whose kids were sick and they found a solution to cancer or to chronic disease and illness. And I hear the heartbreak of the parents who didn't find the answers, who couldn't get the right diagnosis. One of them, a good friend who spent $80,000 and remortgaged her house for 10 years to not get the right diagnosis. And by the time they finally found out, it was too late for her daughter. That breaks my heart. And she had Lyme disease. So it could have been something that a simple test that would have found it. So it's not your doctor's fault. I'm not dishing doctors or nurses or anybody. I know that this is a bigger problem and they're just as frustrated as we are. So how do we fix this? We start talking about it, like really talking about it, having real conversations like what you're seeing on these shows. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes and things that we talk about on a deeper level that we're not here to shine the light and send cockroaches running. We're here to shine the light to actually have a real conversation to help solve the problem. We want everyone to be part of the solution. There is a way to do this. There is a way to still profit and make money from this. There is still a way for people to find solutions and alternative wellness, alternative medicine. One of our guests on our show was a medical doctor for 55 years. She retired. She's in her 80s now. And she said, thank goodness I don't have my license anymore and I can actually heal people. And she got kicked out of the Canadian Pain Society because she had a solution for her. She had a solution for getting rid of back pain with a 2-minute exercise. And they didn't want people to know about this exercise. She's on our show. How many of you would love to know how to live pain-free without surgery or medication? That there are doctors who will tell you that if you're a man and you have heart issues, it's almost directly related to testosterone issues. Did you know that? That there are people getting off the heart transplant list that aren't even being told that by their cardiologists? So I'm just saying that for me, I like to hear all the facts. I don't like things filtered through somebody else's agenda, if that makes sense. And I will tell you flat out, like I said, I'm not a medical expert. I'm a mom. And I don't have the magic pill, if you will, but I do have a platform called Recipe for Wellness. This is our national television show. And I'm so grateful to have people like our host, Sanjay Raja, that when something's going on with one of my children, I can call him and say, hey, this is what I'm finding. And between us, we look at what the doctors tell us. We look at what the tests say. We look at the patterns. We evaluate, we discuss it, and then we find a solution. And I just am proud to have this amazing people library of experts in every area, from food, medicine, wellness, traditional medicine as well, doctors that want to be part of the solution, fitness, nutrition, chefs, lifestyle in general, just overall wellness. This is like a broad spectrum, but there's that many people, including mental health. Hormonal imbalances. We had somebody that was on episode 2 that healed her own physical body, fibromyalgia and other chronic diseases. She literally couldn't walk for 4 years and she healed herself. Okay. The body has the great ability to heal ourselves. We were built that way. It's beyond science. And we need to learn to listen to our bodies, and we need to learn to trust each other and to stick together when it comes to finding the solutions that may not always fit in a box. And I don't ever want to give anybody false hope, but I just felt this need to come on here and tell you guys, because I have so many people that come to me and say, why did you do this show? Why did you produce it? And by the way, we had fires on the set that delayed our production. We had weather delays. We had all kinds of crazy things happening. And anytime you're about to break through and do something great, there's always chaos. Have you ever noticed that? Anything you do something creative, there's chaos, either right before or right after you're trying to do something really cool, really unique. And so I wanted to have this open discussion and be very honest for my soul as a mom, because I'm still going through this. And I've already lost one son. I'm not going to lose another kid over this screwed up system. And so when people ask, why did you do the show? It's that conviction, because I've watched my kids suffer, and they're young and healthy. They should not be having any of these things happening to them. And so I'm seeing it happen younger and younger. My friends that are nurses are telling me there are young kids coming in with cancers that they've never had, they've never seen before. It is becoming these chronic inflammatory diseases. 17 out of 18 of the things that can kill you start with inflammation. You guys, my doctor told me inflammation is the precursor to cancer. So if you're having inflammation, pay attention. There are certain foods that cause inflammation that can create more chronic diseases, but no one's out there teaching you that. They're not telling you this in school. So you think you're eating healthy and you don't realize that the things you're eating aren't actually healthy. Like when you go to the store and you think you're buying organic vegetables and you get home and you realize it's just regular donuts. I'm kidding. But it's, you know what I'm saying? You know, like we know better. And sometimes it's just we're not choosing better. What example are we setting for our kids? How are we eating? How are we caring for ourselves? Right? Because they learn from us. So, if you're sick and tired of the way the system has been working and you want to do something about it, then I invite you to watch our show. You can go to our website, myrecipeforwellness.com, and you can find out more about where the show is airing nationwide in your market. If you'd like to have me as a guest on your podcast or speak at one of your events, or our amazing host, Sanjay Raja, we would love to help work with you to educate people in your community. We are meeting actively with hospitals, with doctors. We are educating them on this. When I lost my son, instead of suing the hospital, I immediately went in and met with the doctors and spoke at the hospital about patient care. So they understood what I was going through as a grieving parent and things they could have done or should have done differently. And do you know, I'm happy to report that it worked. All of it worked, right? Suing them wasn't going to bring my son back, but creating a movement and that we're still part of right now. Me being here and being alive for this very purpose today in my life and honoring my son because I live better and I love better. And when you know better, you do better. So it's about creating that awareness and that knowledge out there in the world so that people understand what they're getting, the facts that they need to make their own informed decisions. How many of you would rather make your own decisions rather than literally be spoon fed by the government or anybody else to tell you what you should be doing? You know in your gut, literally and figuratively, what feels right to you and what doesn't feel right to you. And I just want to encourage you to trust that. And I want to try to give you as many resources as we possibly can to help you in that process. We have zero agenda. I have nothing to sell you here. We're not selling supplements. We're not pushing anything. This is strictly informational and educational. Our television show is not promotional in any way. In fact, it cannot be, which is why we partnered with public television and made the choice, because when we started pitching this to major networks, think about who has the money to pay for these big, long commercials that have 2 minutes of disclaimers. So that's more airtime. Think about how that all ties together. How you have big pharmaceutical companies in bed with big hospitals and big food companies, and they all kind of work together to continue to keep us sick. Don't you think there's something a little weird about that? And I'm starting to see some shifts. I'm starting to see the good news, starting to see some shifts. And unfortunately, I have to jump off now because I'm getting calls from a nurse because I have a sick kid who's been sick for 2 weeks with no answers, fainting spells, all kinds of things. And this has been an on and off again thing for a while. It's extremely frustrating when you don't have those answers. So as we continue to look for answers and alternatives, I encourage you to do the same for your family. So thank you for joining me today. I really hope that you can share this with other people who need this content, and that I invite you to watch our show. It's all across the United States, and it's soon to be international streaming. Plus, we're talking to syndication companies as well. So you will be able to see the show. You can go to the website to see more stations and where it's available in your area. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching today. Take care, everyone. Bye.